Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's this week's big number. I do this every week with my man, Dan Devine at Yahoo Sports. Dan, what's going on, man?
Tom, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I'm excited about moving from so many games to fewer games, so many teams to fewer teams, closer to the finish line. Let's put up some numbers. Tom Haberstroh, tell me, what is this week's big number?
This week's big number is 724.
That's very big
the
number.
Indiana Pacers win percentage in the year 2025 since January 1st. A win-loss record of 42-16. How many teams have been better than the Indiana Pacers since January 1st? It's actually only been the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're tied for the best record, win-loss record, with the Boston Celtics, who are playing on Wednesday night against the New York Knicks on the brink of elimination. The Indiana Pacers, Dan, they're here. They've been here since January 1st.
Okay. Yes. And why do you keep saying the name wrong? You keep saying
wrong?
Pacers. Maybe you're not aware of it. The reason that I know it's Pacers is because their shirts say yes, sirs. So you're saying Pacers, not Pacers. What is this?
This is their new name. Dan.
Oh, congratulations.
They're no longer the Pacers. They're the Pacers. And here's why. The Indiana Pacers are now doing something we haven't seen in a decade. Is they're averaging 337 passes per game this postseason. In fact, they had over 400 more passes in that Cleveland series than the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are known as one of the best passing teams in the NBA.
Wow.
And the Indiana Pacers just destroyed them in ball movement and were just surgical in the way that they got into their offense. And it destroyed the Cavs down the stretch, just wore them down with the ball movement. High pace, yeah, the Indiana Pacers, sure. But the thing that's historic about this team, Dan, is that they move the ball and they're getting the ball to multiple players who are attacking. It's not just Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton. It's a very weird team in which they don't have a 20-point scorer this postseason. They've got 5 players, Dan, that are averaging over 14 points a game. All 5 of their starters are averaging over 14 points per game. I looked this up. I wanted to know how often we have seen 5 guys starting at least 10 games in the postseason, averaging each of them at least 14 points per game. Hasn't been done since 1987.
Wow. Who did it then?
The Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks, 2 of the best teams in the NBA that season. And also in 1986, there's only 3 teams in NBA history that have done what the Indiana Pacers are doing, this egalitarian offense where they move the ball and everybody eats. And it's kind of running counter to this kind of heliocentric NBA offense that we've seen where, Luka Doncic with the Mavericks carried that team on his back to go to the NBA Finals. We know what happened after that. We don't need to get into it right now. But we've seen this kind of direction in the NBA where you want to put the ball in the hands of your best player and have him create everything, not just the shots, but also, taking on a lot of just that workload that is required to dribble and to probe and to just, it's exhausting. And what the Pacers are doing it's something completely different. And it's an anomaly when we look at how teams are constructed in today's NBA. And I think it's a big reason why, Dan, you and I have been on the Indiana Pacers, but still, I think they are so underrated because of this structure of their roster and the way they get their points. This season, before the season tipped off, they were plus 5,000 to win the NBA championship, which should go down as the longest odds ever to win a championship if they pull this off. They're now one of the last 4 teams remaining, second time they've done this in the last 2 years. But this would be the biggest upset, the biggest underdog we have ever seen win a championship. And I think a lot of it has to do with they don't have one guy doing it. It's every guy doing it, Dan. This is kind of one of these things that the Cleveland Cavaliers, we thought that they were kind of strength in numbers by how good their starting 5 was. The Indiana Pacers were just flat out better.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned the long odds heading into the season. I think that reflects some skepticism about the Pacers' path to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, where they get an injured Milwaukee team in round one. They get a Knicks team that barely could field a team by the end of round two. And then when they run into the Celtics, they, run aground. And so I think there were people that were saying, that was the Hawks from a few years ago, right? And, I need to see him do it again before I believe it. Well, they've done it again. And, you can be skeptical again and say, well, okay, there was another injury-laden Bucks team in round one. And the Cavs don't have Garland at the start of the series. They wind up with knocks to DeAndre Hunter and Evan Mobley. And then as you go on, Donovan Mitchell and his ankle, again, injuries impacting it. But whenever, all else equal, the Pacers just completely overwhelmed the Cavs in 5 games. This was a 5-game series that rarely felt even that close. It felt, and some of that is just the one sort of pivotal swing game. Yet again, Indiana Pacer late game devil magic. We talked about it on last week's episode with the big comeback late to win game 2. You've seen a ton of that, but the Pacers are able to both never let themselves get out of games and also consistently put that pedal to the metal and leave you in the dust, because it reminds me of the raptor in Jurassic Park, where it was they're always testing the cage. They're testing the doorknob. Rick Carlisle and Tyrese Haliburton as kind of the brain trust, the nerve center of this team. They're going to make you prove you locked the door every time. Do you have a defender you're a little bit uncertain about? Coming into action, we're going to test it every time. Are you a little bit spacey off the ball? Are your help principles not totally locked in? All right. Flare screen, flare screen, flare screen. We are going to spread you out and make you defend in space. Are you a little shaky getting the ball up the court? We're pressing you. We are forcing you to make plays or make mistakes. And if you can't do it, if you blink, we are on top of you. And I think that level of game plan discipline, the level of depth in terms of the number of guys they can trust, and I think the superpower the passers thing, as much as it threw me off at the beginning, and that number, what's interesting to me is a lot of times you hear teams talk about, or coaches talk about, reducing the number of passes because it limits turnovers, right? Makes sense. The ball's in the air less often. There's less of a chance for it to get deflected or picked off. But the Pacers are a high pass number team. They volume of passing super high, as you mentioned, and the turnover rate is still super low. I think they're third in the playoffs in turnover percentage. So you're getting all the benefits of that ball movement without the dangers of it, and it makes me wonder. One of the reasons that I think they might be underrated, outside of just they're in Indianapolis, they're not in a major market, they're not on national TV as often as some of the other glamour market teams. If that's one of Tyrese Haliburton's superpowers, that you get all the benefits of high octane, high volume, high pace, but it's still really we avoid mistakes we had talked about on the show with Jimmy Butler in Golden State. That's a quiet thing to be really important. And I wonder if that's something that gets overlooked a lot when we talk about what makes a great offense.
Yeah. And they've been doing it for a long time. I have those title tiers I do every Monday. And it took me a while to put the Indiana Pacers on there. And I think I looked at the injuries that they faced, like you pointed out earlier in the show, and just thought, I don't know, against a stiff competition, fully loaded Cavs or a fully loaded Milwaukee Bucks, I just don't see it. But it's not the fact that they've beaten those teams. It's that they've beaten them so soundly, right? It's not like they squeaked out in a 7-game series against both of those teams. They destroyed both of them, convincingly beat those teams and wore them down in such a way that you've so clearly raised all of those great points about how well disciplined they are, how they pass without this worry of the turnovers, which is a very unique thing, as you mentioned. And it's just, you don't know who's gonna kill you. They. It's funny. They have, that debate about the 100 men versus one gorilla. They are the 100 men. They are the answer to that little parable there, where it's who would win in that fight? Well, we know the Indiana Pacers, where they would side with that is that they're going on the quantity over the quality there. They are just coming at you from every angle. 94 feet, all 94 feet. That's not just the pace up and down the floor. It's also the horizontal pace where they're swinging the ball side to side and just surgically getting into the teeth of the defense and raining from downtown in big moments. I mean, Tyrese Haliburton, his clutch moments. And we're going to talk about this guy in a little bit. But Nesmith, 14.6 points per game. Nembhard, 14.6 points per game. Miles Turner, 16.5. Tyrese Haliburton, 17.5. Pascal Siakam, 18.5. We're so conditioned to watch these teams have guys that are averaging 25, 26, 27, 28, 30 points per game. And those are the elite title contenders. But the Pacers are doing this totally different. And that doesn't mean that they're less than. Because we know the big number is that they've had a 724 win percentage since January 1st, over 4 months of playing at this level with OKC and Boston and the rest of the teams. The 724 big number, I think it represents the fact that they can absolutely win the championship this year. Even though they were plus 5,000, one of the biggest long shots in the playoff field to win this whole thing, even though they would be the biggest long shot ever to win the title, I think the style of play and the way that they destroy and dismantle defenses with their passing, they got star power, they got depth, they got a great style of play and great coaching from Rick Carlisle. They can absolutely win the NBA championship despite what the haters say. Right, Tyrese Haliburton? The Indiana Pacers, or if you want to call them the Indiana Pacers, are here. And I think there's maybe the most underrated player in the league on this roster. And Tyrese Haliburton was called the most overrated player this season by the players. But I would venture to guess that the underrated label is deserving of one of their own players. And it's not Tyrese Haliburton, it's another guy. We're going to talk about it, Dan, with one of your with one of your 4 little numbers coming up after the break. Stay with us. All right, Dan. So we talked about the win percentage since January 1st. Only Oklahoma City Thunder are better than the Indiana Pacers, or if you want to call them Pacers, fine. If you're a traditionalist, fine. If you're a purist, that's great. But we got 4 little numbers explaining the underlying effects of why the Indiana Pacers are legit title contenders and can win this whole thing. Dan, let's kick off the first one. What's your first little number?
First little number this week is 100. That is the percentile in which Andrew Nembhard ranks in average defensive matchup difficulty this season, according to our friends at the B-Ball Index. If the 100th percentile sounds good, it's because it is. That means that on a night-to-night basis, nobody, not Dyson Daniels, not Drew Holiday, not Jaden McDaniels, nobody has had to deal with a tougher average offensive opponent at the point of attack than Andrew Nembhard. Night in, night out, the toughest slate of opposing ball handlers and shot creators in the NBA, bar none. You crank it down a little bit and go 95th percentile. The list of guys in the 95th percentile or higher in matchup difficulty, perimeter isolation defense, so how well you play one-on-one against those guys, and off-ball chaser defense, which captures like when you're dealing with Steph and you got to go through the slalom of off-ball screens all night. 95th percentile or better in all those. It's Nembhard, Lou Dort, and Andrew Wiggins. That's it. So you are talking about an elite perimeter defender who in this postseason just held Donovan Mitchell to 10 for 43 shooting when they were matched up last round, according to NBA.com's tracking data. Also a ton of success against Dame before his injury and Darius Garland in and around his injury. He's doing all that while, as you mentioned, I think 14.6 points per game on 50, 50, 88 shooting splits. So elite shooting from all 3 levels of the floor, with a 3.5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio, and one of the most efficient pick and roll playmakers outside of Giannis. Giannis is the only guy whose pick and rolls are producing more points per possession in this playoffs than Andrew Nembhard. So when you match it up all of it, elite perimeter defense, excellent complementary scoring, elite shooting, and top of the league efficiency in pick and roll playmaking, got to be one of the most underrated players in the NBA at this point, no?
You know, Dan, Andrew Nembhard is exactly who Lakers fans think Austin Reeves is.
Oh!
Like, that's the ideal. That's the ideal. Austin Reeves is the best third banana in the NBA. Best guy, the complimentary star next to LeBron James and Luka Doncic. Andrew Nembhard is that guy. Like, he is the guy that you want to be complimenting your superstars, where it's Tyrese Haliburton and Pascal Siakam. You want a guy who's solid with the ball, elite on-ball protector, great pull-up shooter, off-ball shooter, a guy who can distribute the rock. He does everything for this team. And he's not known, he's not a household name, but he is every bit that kind of complimentary third piece on a title contending team that you want to see. And Austin Reeves, when he shriveled up like a pumpkin against the Minnesota Timberwolves, we were wondering what happened to this dude. This guy was so good in the regular season, and yet he kind of fell apart in the postseason when the lights got brightest. Andrew Nembhard's the opposite. Like, you look at this guy's regular season numbers compared to his postseason numbers last 2 years, he's been outstanding. He's taken his game like playoff Jimmy, at least before this series, playoff Jimmy. This is the guy that I think every role player should aspire to, that he steps up from a role player into kind of like that borderline star player for your team. Like, he does everything. The pick and roll attacks, the defense, the in your jersey, the nuisance that he brings, and Nesmith's the same way. They've got multiple guys like this, and it's so annoying to have to go against. How many times in this series did they try to inbound the ball to Donovan Mitchell, and one of those guys were just like, I'm not letting you get this ball, and it's just irritating to no end, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
Also, just need to say, two of the biggest swing plays in the Pacers' run so far are defensive plays that Nembhard made, stealing inbounds passes. We talked about him on this show. We talked about it, the big comeback against Milwaukee, in order to set up the one of Haliburton's buckets to get them closer in that comeback. He comes from the backcourt all the way over to help and steals the inbounds pass to set that up. And then that was game 5 against Milwaukee. And then game 2 against the Cavs. Again, they need to get the ball back to be able to have a chance in the final half minute or so. He comes over, steals the inbound pass, I think from Max Strus, and gets it to Haliburton to set up the shooting foul, gets them closer. So like when they need big plays, big shots, he had the huge game-winning 3 against the Knicks in the second round last season. Pair of huge fourth quarter threes in game 1 against Cleveland. Big bully ball and 1 on Garland in game 5 to close it out. He's the one who makes the pass to Miles Turner for the corner 3. That's the night shot. Like, every time they've needed a big play, Andrew Nembhard has been there. Absolutely sensational player, and not bad for the first pick of the second round of the NBA draft. The Indiana Pacers, we grow basketball here, and we find some pretty good players down the depth chart. Our second little number this week goes to some of that pressure that we were just talking about with Andrew Nembhard applying. 18. That's how many possessions of press defense the Pacers are playing this postseason, according to Synergy Sports. 18 possessions of press defense a game not only leads the NBA, it is more than double the second place team, the Detroit Pistons, rather, just under 9 a game. And
so the Pacers are at 18.
Yep.
And the next highest team is under 9.
Was Detroit at 8.8. And you remember the way that they were, Asar Thompson and Dennis Schroeder were following Jalen Brunson all over the court, which, not to put any spoilers out there, but we might see a whole lot of that in the next round as well. This is a continuation of a theme. Indiana averaged nearly 25 possessions of press defense last postseason. Again, leading the league nearly 3 times as much as the second place team, the Miami Heat. They led the regular season this year in possessions of press defense, about 12 a game, again, head and shoulders above everybody else. When you look at this Pacers defense, which has been, I think a lot of people maybe don't realize, a lot better than they might remember from last year. They've been about like a top 5 defense from early December on. What do you sort of role do you think that pressure plays? What value are they getting from that, cranking up the pressure on the opposing defenses on the inbounds?
Dude, you're talking to a guy who was on the Blazers broadcast doing the Toumani Camara breakdowns. Like, yes. I watched him do this all season long and being like, man, how many guys in the league are willing to do this? The answer is like many of the Pacers. Like, whether it's Shepard, Nembhard, Nesmith, like, they're all willing to do it. And if you have guys who are willing to pick up full court and be that irritant, that pest, and have the conditioning to do that. Not every player can pair the willingness and the conditioning to do it. Like, the physicality that is required to do that, it's exhausting. And it's also mentally, like, psychologically, the way these guys are wired, that they want to do this every time down the floor. That's a different sort of DNA that the Indiana Pacers are obviously valuing when they pick these guys in the draft or when they acquire these guys in trades. There's just something that you cannot teach, the way that they are able to pick up full court and be a nuisance all over the floor. It's one of the reasons why Toumani Camara is one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA, because he just does things that you do not see normally. And the Pacers are doing this as a team. Like, those numbers you're bringing up are so astronomically different than the rest of the league. It's like they're playing a different sport. You rarely get such an outlier stat like that, where one team is doing something that no other team is doing. And the Indiana Pacers are doing that in multiple respects, whether it's passing the ball 423 times more than the Cleveland Cavaliers in this series and getting about 30 assists per game. Another stat there. Sorry to go on this tangent here, but another stat there is that they're averaging almost 30 assists per game, which is more than we've seen in decades.
Wow.
And that the only team that did this is the Indiana Pacers last year. So they're doing on both sides of the floor, whether it's the pressure, full court, and the ability to just be in your jersey. The Indiana Pacers are just an enigma. They're a totally different team in ways that we were talking about the Memphis Grizzlies earlier this year. The Pacers are that team, and they're one of the last four remaining.
And that's, I think, a good way to look at the way that they're able to put that pressure on. It's the depth that they've got, where no player on that, you mentioned the dispersed scoring. Also, nobody on the team is averaging more than 35 minutes a game in the playoffs. Like, I think Haliburton's at 34, and that's it. You've got 9 guys playing at least 10 minutes a game. And then also Thomas Bryant, who'll come in for stretches, was big in game 5 against the Cavs. Jarris Walker, he'll get in for stretches. So, like, they've got 11 guys that they feel pretty good about, and that they'll go out there. TJ McConnell, every time he's on the floor, it's going to be 150 miles per hour of completely caffeinated play, including those backcourt pickups. But yeah, Ben Shepherd, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, they'll put 2 or 3 guys into the backcourt and say, like, we're not even just going to say, we're going to let you get that one pass in, and then there'll be token pressure. We're going to make you have to, like, we're going to trap if we need to. We're going to make you make those passes to get off it. We're going to make those passes stressful. Like, and we talked about this with the Knicks a couple episodes ago, I think. Every second you get deeper into the shot clock before you can get into your action, a team's offensive efficiency drops, right? So if you're making the opponent consistently play deep in the clock, the chances are they're not going to score as efficiently. And if they're missing shots, you're getting the ball off the rim, you get to push. Tyrese Haliburton in the open court. These are virtuous cycles. They feed one another, and the Pacers have been feasting an awful lot on possessions like those. We'll go to our little number 3 here, 59.1. That's the Pacers' team effective field goal percentage through 2 playoff rounds, according to Cleaning the Glass. We've talked about effective field goal percentage on this show a lot. Takes into account the fact that 3-pointers are worth more than 2-pointers. 59.1. That not only leads the NBA in this postseason, it would be the highest mark of any conference finalist in Cleaning the Glass's database, which goes back to 2003.
Yo.
So 59.1, super duper high, league leading mark. And what's impressive about that, and I think what gets to what's one of the things that's special about these Pacers, is that their expected effective field goal percentage, we've talked about that shot quality data, just generally, if your players shoot league average from the spots on the floor where they take their shots, essentially a way of just measuring the quality of shots and the value of the shots your offense generates. The Pacers' expected EFG is 53.2, which is 11th out of the 16 playoff teams. So they're overshooting that by nearly 6 percentage points through 2 playoff rounds. As a team, 67% at the rim, 48% from mid-range, 42% from 3. This is a team of shot makers, man. And this time of year, that is awfully tough to defend.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty sustainable, right? Like, you can say that Evan Mobley wasn't himself, and that they were banged up, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that defense was just playing well behind of what they're capable of doing. But, like, how many times do we need to see this before we say the Pacers are real? They did it last postseason. They did it in the second half of this year. And the ability to, like, how many point guards are getting over half of their 3-pointers assisted? Like, the passing that they do to get open shots, Tyrese Haliburton, the majority of his 3-pointers are coming off of these, like, relocations. In transition, he's getting these feeds, and he's pulling up from downtown. Yeah, a bunch. But a lot of it is Nembhard is leading the Pacers in assists per game in that series against Cleveland. It wasn't Haliburton. So the ability to move the ball and get great shots, not good shots, moving the ball, it reminds me a lot of the summertime Spurs in 2014. Jackie McMullen wrote this amazing piece for ESPN, the magazine, about how Greg Popovich and the Spurs wanted it to feel like summertime, the way that they move the ball and the joy of getting team movement, getting the ball movement, and just having everyone play for each other. That's how the Pacers play. Like, they play for each other. They move the ball. They trust each other. And this effective field goal percentage stat that you're bringing up, I kind of feel like the continuity of this roster has a big impact on that, is that they know where they are. They know their guys, their tendencies. They're well coached. And that consistency has really paid dividends, where you just think that they're moving these pieces around the chessboard in ways that it feels like a sixth sense. They don't have like a new guy on this roster. This is pretty much a homemade roster here. And I kind of feel like a lot of that is paying off wildly in that effective field goal percentage and the shot making. It's not just lucky anymore. I don't think it's lucky. I think when you're looking at the Indiana Pacers, the fact that they can swarm you defensively, get out in transition, play up tempo, but also keep that pace horizontally and back and forth, man, they're getting these good shots by design.
Absolutely. And yeah, the only like midstream addition this year was they signed Thomas Bryant or traded for Thomas Bryant because they had both of their backup centers the first like week of the season tore their Achilles, James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. So but even that, like, he plays a very similar style as like a stretch big to Miles Turner. So it fits in really neatly. And even so, you're 9-10 minutes a game, if that. So like the core pieces have played together, have now played a lot of high level basketball, a lot of playoff games, and I think you see the benefits of it. One little quick sub number to your point about the points of comparison with that like beautiful game Spurs team. Indiana has the lowest average touch time in the postseason, just 2.8 seconds per touch, that was the whole idea, right? The ball's got to find energy, it's got to swing around, and it does that in Indiana as well, as well as, if not better than, any place else in the NBA. Brings us to the genesis of all that, our fourth little final little number, 122.9. That, according to our friends at PBP Stats, is the Pacers' offensive rating with Tyrese Haliburton on the floor since the 12th of December. So it goes back even a little bit further than the purview of what you had in our big number here. 12th of December, regular season playoffs combined, 5 months, 122.9 offensive rating. Among 209 players to log at least 1,000 minutes in that span, it is 16th. A lot of those guys are like complementary contingent players, though, guys who have stuff created for them. So among high usage primary ball handler types, it's Jokic, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, SGA, Jamal Murray, and Tyrese Haliburton. And if you factor in just the playoffs, all those guys go away, and it's Tyrese, 122.4 at the top of the heap. Advanced metrics like estimated plus minus have been telling us for the last 2-3 years that this guy is one of the 5, maybe even fewer than that, best offensive engines in terms of the way he impacts winning on the offensive end of the floor in the entire NBA. 2 playoff runs, 2 conference finals appearances. So what's driving that, Tom? Like, what makes Tyrese Haliburton such a unique wellspring of efficient offense?
Well, the shot making is one thing, and we've seen that in clutch moments where he has these ridiculous game winners. When everybody else is tired, he's getting the ball and he's hitting those shots with confidence. But it's also the confidence with the ball in the playmaking standpoint. Like, Nikola Jokic is considered one of the best passing big men, maybe the best passer ever. This postseason, Nikola Jokic has 97 assists and 49 turnovers. Tyrese Haliburton has 93 assists and 21 turnovers. So he has 4 fewer assists than Nikola Jokic, but 28 fewer turnovers than Nikola Jokic. That's like incredible sure-handed basketball. He reminds me a lot of Chris Paul in that department, where not only is he an efficient scorer and a guy who can get to his shots, but he's so good at getting other guys involved and hitting other shooters without costing you those possessions with costly turnovers. And that's like really hard to teach. And so when you combine the shot making with the ability to get other teammates involved without the residue of those turnovers, man, you've got an elite playmaker. You got a great floor general that can lead great offense. And so it's Tyrese Haliburton, it's his teammates, it's the coaching. But man, we do not stress that turnover column enough. We talked about it with Jimmy Butler earlier this season, but man, Tyrese Haliburton, a lot of people in the NBA, the players think he's overrated. But I think part of that might be because I think turnovers and the ability to not make mistakes offensively is underrated. I feel like that's a very underrated portion of what makes Tyrese Haliburton so good is that he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And yeah, he might be kind of like, he might seem missing in action a lot of the times offensively. You kind of forget that he's on the floor when he's playing off ball sometimes. But a lot of that is by design because they got guys who can make those plays in his absence. So I think Tyrese Haliburton is an elite floor general in today's game. And big reason why he does not waste possessions, man. He is so sure-handed with the ball.
I love that. Just to put a button on it. After closing out the Cavaliers in 5, Rick Carlisle was asked sort of about how his team finished the series and, what it was like. And he said, the winning team writes the script. And so you look at the way these Pacers are built, the way their style of play impacts the game, the way Haliburton operates as an alpha who's not, as you mentioned, not the heliocentric star who has to use 35% of his team's possessions. It's got a everybody eats feel. It looks different. The defense is applied differently. All these sorts of things. It looks different than we are used to, than we've come to expect championship teams to be constructed in the way they look and feel. But listen, the winning team writes the script. And right now the Pacers are 4 wins away from the finals and have a chance to write a pretty interesting script of their own.
Yeah. Dude, Pacers are good, man. They've been good. They can win this whole thing. And I wouldn't say that they're better or more likely to win it than OKC right now. Who knows what happens in that series? But if you haven't been considering them serious title contenders, like, wake up, dude. Like, wake up. These Pacers are here. We're going to talk about something else. Cooper Flagg is also here. He's now like a Dallas Maverick, pretty much, which is such a crazy thing to say, Dan. Of all the things that have been crazy this season, like saying Cooper Flagg is now a Dallas Maverick or should be a Dallas Maverick, might be a Dallas Maverick, whatever. We're going to talk about Cooper Flagg, the Dallas Mavericks winning the NBA draft lottery this season with a 1.8% chance of doing so. We're going to talk about the fit with the Mavericks or potentially what Nico Harrison could do with that number 1 overall pick coming up after the break.